Get ready to unleash your inner fashion design skills. In this video, I'm going to show you how to utilize the fashion design book to draw fashion illustrations. Whether you're an aspiring fashion designer or looking to explore your creative side as a home sewist, this step-by-step video will get you underway with drawing fashion illustrations. If you would like to download the fashion illustration croquis that I'm going to use in this video, you can click the link in the description below. Even though the fashion design book focuses on flat garment sketches, you can still utilize it to make your fashion illustrations. The fashion design book is an entire library of many silhouettes and design details. You can mix and match the different parts of the garment in order to design your own unique style. Now I want to go into a step-by-step demonstration about how to use the book to draw a fashion illustration sketch. In this design process, I'm going to be referring to my inspiration. In case you don't have inspiration yet to make your own design, you can refer back to the previous video that's linked through the QR code in the fashion design book about inspiration. Find your inspiration before you start designing. In the meantime, watch this step-by-step demonstration about how to draw that fashion illustration. The fashion design book focuses on flat garment sketches. It has a library of silhouettes and style details for drawing flat fashion sketches. And even though we cover more flat fashion sketches, which are more proportional, you can definitely still use the library and silhouettes in fashion illustrations. If you have the fashion design book, you'll go ahead and use that to reference for any silhouettes that you want to design. It's a mix and match library. So necklines and silhouettes of dresses or skirts and sleeves, then we mix and match to design our clothes. Now, in case you want to draw your own fashion illustration croquis, I do have another video showing you how to do that. But to make it quicker, go ahead and download the croquis through the link in the description, and let's get started. So these are different sketches from the fashion design book, and there is a PDF version of the book in case you want to print it so it's flat instead of open in a book. And I've gone ahead and pulled some of my favorite sketches that I want to use to create a dress. And before I started looking at the different silhouettes and style details, I looked at my inspiration photos. So I have quite a few inspiration photos, and I go through this in another video. But I have these photos of a glacier, which I absolutely love the lines here. These lines kind of represent ruching or shirring in a style. So lots of pleats and lots of close gathers there. That kind of is what I take away from that glacier photo. This one is a little bit more jagged and really interesting, and I could even see maybe some sort of pleats like that coming through into a garment. So I have these inspiration photos, which I haven't decided if I'm going to go with these or go more with architecture. So I have these, which I've printed. And I show in another video with inspiration photos how I love to go black and white and high contrast to see different visuals of the lines and the pattern. So for me, I love the geometry here. I love the rigidness. This would, to me, represent something that's much more structured as far as like a more tailored type of dress. And as well, these ceilings are very strong, and those lines really speak to me a lot. I love those types of ceilings. And I absolutely love the floral decor painting on this ceiling as well. So I really don't know which direction I want to go yet with this dress, and it's been a hard decision. Probably end up doing a few different options, maybe trying both of those different ideas. So I'm thinking maybe I'm going to go with the more structured silhouette, the more rigid silhouette possibly. And I want to go in kind of this mermaid direction, but this is looking a bit too flowy to me compared to my inspiration photos. So I'm going to go ahead and use that as my silhouette to start off with, and I do want to give her some sleeves as well. So I want something a little bit more structured, and I'm thinking to maybe go in this direction of the tucked cap or pointed cap, but maybe a little bit less pointy there. Yeah, this would look a little bit too flowing to me. We'll try with that, and this would not be quite structured enough. I think I would rather have some pleats or darts to give it more structure in that sleeve. So the type of fabric I would use for something like this would definitely have a full body drape to it. So we're going to start off with this silhouette. I'm going to use my fashion illustration sketch, but of course you can use your flat croquis as well. So that is also in the free download, and it's also in the fashion design book. So since I'm using a different croquis from the fashion design book, and these are all based on flat garment sketches, they are a 7.5 head tall versus the 9 head tall in our fashion illustration, we're going to have to do some adjustments to get to this fashion illustration. And what I'm going to do first is fold that tracing paper in half. And you don't have to use tracing paper, but it's definitely going to be easier to see through. It does add another layer of work when you want to render it with markers. So you could go straight to using marker paper if you're planning to render. And since I am going to render this, I'm going to have to do a second step in there. So I'm going to mark my croquis with the center line. Not there, but I should do this on the freebie so that you don't have to. Okay. All right, so we're going to line up my center of my tracing paper with the center underneath. Okay, we're going to do a really quick outline of the croquis and have a really soft hand. When we do this, we don't want to be pressing too hard. Just do a really fast one. We don't need to do all of the undergarments. We're just going to do the outer edges so we can get the idea of where she's at. I am going to draw a line at the under bust indicating her bust position, and I want to make sure I've marked the up to the armhole area. I'm going to also draw her head in. Now, of course, I could draw in her belly button and the underwear lines just as references, but we are good enough at this starting point. So we have a quick outline of our croquis. And now we're going to start layering our dress on top of it. When we were drawing that 9 head croquis, we had our shoulders going slanted, and then we also have our bust going slanted. So it's going up in that direction. And then we have the hips going in the opposite direction. So we need to remember that when we're sketching, and always kind of memorize whichever slant your fashion illustration is using for the croquis, because we want to mimic that same thing on the body here. So we're going to kind of turn the croquis in the area of that slant. So we're going to turn her so armhole to armhole is pretty close to lining up there. And I'm not so sure if I'm going to use this neckline, but I'm going to go ahead and mark it as my reference, and I can decide on that later. So that references the angle as I've turned it. Then I need to reference the rest of the body shaping, and I am going to add a slight bit to the width of my croquis, and you can kind of turn the croquis as needed. So since this 9 head croquis is really elongated, we need to decide where we want the silhouette to kind of hit. So this indentation, we really want it to hit on the knee area. So we're going to actually bump this up a little bit more. And we will have kind of this curve hitting with the upper portion there. We're just elongating that sketch from the fashion design book. and we can go ahead and do the outline. I am going to change the hem because I want it to be a more full-bodied dress. So we can see we're already getting closer to this mermaid silhouette, but I want to go ahead and do my own design lines. I don't want to use these. I want to be inspired by my images for the design lines. And then I also have to choose my neckline. So I could kind of keep with this sweetheart looking neckline and go with like the Queen Anne and really pull in a nice shape there. That would really give me a beautiful structured look. Or I could go with something a little bit higher neckline, maybe like the slashed. That could also give it a nice structured look. This one would also give it a nice structured look, but I really want to have those pointed sleeves, so I couldn't do that there. Or the boat neck would also be nice. Yeah, so many options. The standard sweetheart would be good, or I could go strapless, but then I wouldn't be able to have sleeves. And I do want to get some structured sleeves in there. So lots of options to choose from. Let's go ahead and go with that Queen Anne because I like the way this is already looking. And we'll use that here for the upper portion. So we need to, again, tilt this so that it's hitting that armhole area. It's not going to exactly be perfect often because that fashion illustration is slightly different than these proportions. But we are going to get pretty close here. Kind of brought it in a little bit more on this side. I think I'll bring it out a little bit more on the other side, having more of a wider neckline here. I like the kind of geometry of this and how the curves are still kind of coming in, like this neckline here really reminds me of my arched ceilings. So we are done with the neckline and the dress silhouette. Let's go on to the sleeves. Definitely don't want to have as much of a pointed cap as that because it's not quite going with the smooth roundness of some of these curved lines. Let's go with that tucked sleeve. Okay, now these arms here are definitely flat. They're from the flat sketches. So we need to kind of turn the croquis again to reach the arm better. And it could be that we need to twist it a few times to get kind of the right shaping. And something like that is looking pretty good to me. And I am thinking about, do I go with long sleeves here? I think we're going to go with a long sleeve here. So I'm going to follow the line down. I'm going to actually touch the arm because I want it to be pretty tight and fitted. It's going to have a little bit of stretch in that fabric probably. Or it's going to have a seam in it. We need to have enough wearing ease if it has no stretch. We'll then erase the croquis underneath. Yeah, that's looking nice. Let's go ahead and give her a little bit more pointed of a cap. I want to kind of mimic some of these roof lines with just a little bit more harder shaped geometry. And this is going to definitely be subjective, as fashion is. Not everybody's going to like everything you design. That's the fun of fashion. Okay, so she's looking good. We need to add the other sleeve. That one's going to be much closer to the body. Right. So we'll erase the arm on the other side here and keep the sleeve marked. And we have our little tuck, our pleat right there. Okay, now we have to figure out our design lines on the dress. We have to have design lines in order to achieve such a tight fit. we can't have no design lines. We need to have either princess seams or panels or any sort of design lines in order to achieve that fit. And the same thing for the sleeves. If we don't have such a stretchy fabric, or even if we have a slight stretch, like a mechanical stretch, we still need to be able to achieve this tight fit. And we do that through design lines. So I am going to go ahead and add a design line of a 2-paneled sleeve. And that's already going to give us a nice shaping on the sleeve so we can achieve a more fitted sleeve. And then we need to achieve something in the design line. I'm going to go ahead and erase this bust reference line for now. We'll draw that in at the end again. And what do I want to do here? How can I use my inspiration to inspire these lines? This is already kind of coming in. These lines are kind of an opposite of the points here as well. We also have these beautiful kind of clover type things, or we have really harsh lines or points here. And we could even do it slightly asymmetrical if we wanted. We could come down from one side and then come down from another. This is really up to you, but the best fit is going to be whenever we have a design line going through the apex, which is the full bust, the fullest part of the bust that protrudes out the most. So we want to for sure hit some sort of design line through that apex, which is about here and here. We're going to start with a similar line as the neckline and follow that down. But of course, whatever sort of design lines you would want to do, you can do. So that's already giving me a nice line. I'm going to go ahead and delete, erase these here so that I can better see the rest of the silhouette. So what else can we do? We definitely could do a nice empire waistline, which would go with kind of this direction of architecture in the time period that it was inhabited. Would definitely go with an empire waistline, or you could really do anything you want, and this is where the fun comes in. I'm going to kind of continue this design line, just play with it a little bit and see if we can kind of pull it in to there a little bit. Do I like that? No, not so much. Just kind of keep playing around until you like your design lines and use your inspiration to guide you. Now I'm going to change the flow of the bottom. I want it to be more of a structured fabric. I'm going to indicate that the person is walking, so I'm going to have a slight higher hem on this side. And that's already indicating a more full body style versus a very drapey, flowy fabric. And I might have it a little bit more rounded at the bottom. Okay, I will go ahead and add a train for her just to give it a little bit of something. Add a little bit of a train, not so much. So that is my fashion illustration of the garment itself. To add the face and the hair, you can watch another video that shows how to do this step. Don't forget to download your free fashion illustration croquis through the link in the description. The fashion design book is available in a standard version and a curvy plus size version. You can find it on most online retailers, including Amazon, and through the link in the description below. I'm Gina Renee, and I teach online pattern making and design courses so that you can design clothes you love that fit. If you've enjoyed today's video, I would love it if you liked and subscribed so that you can see more videos like this in the future. Thanks so much for tuning in today, and I'll see you in the next video.